Hello everyone, this is Maria Villalagos, a BA third year student of Nurso Shaton Campus. Today, I will report about the models of curriculum evaluation. What is a curriculum? According to Daniel Tanner of 1980, it is the planned and guided learning experiences and intended learning outcomes formulated through the systematic reconstruction of knowledge and experiences under the auspices of the school for the learner's continuous and willful growth in personal social competence. According to Smith of 2000, there are four main contexts in curriculum definition. It is as a body of knowledge that is to be transmitted, as an attempt to achieve certain ends in students' product, as a process, and as a praxis. A praxis is the blending of theory and practice and can also be understood as the process by which theory is embodied and enacted. For education, praxis is theoretically grounded actions evidenced in learning environment of all types. Evaluation. Evaluation is the collection of analysis and interpretation of information about any aspect of a program of education or training as part of a recognized process of judging its effectiveness, its efficiency, and any other outcomes it may have. Models. Models are likened to myths and metaphors, which helps us make senses of our world. A model offers its user a means of comprehending an otherwise incomprehensible problem. This is according to Instructional Design Central of 2012. What is a curriculum evaluation? Curriculum evaluation is a method for determining the worth and effectiveness of any newly implemented curriculum. The purpose of curriculum evaluation is to determine whether or not the newly adopted curriculum is producing the intended results and meeting the objectives that it has set forth, and it is an essential component in the process of adopting and implementing any new curriculum in any educational setting. Another purpose of curriculum evaluation is to gather data that will help in identifying areas in need of improvement or change. So why is it necessary? There are several parties or stakeholders interested in the process and results of curriculum evaluation. First, parents are interested because they want to be assured that their children are being provided with a sound, effective education. Second, teachers are interested because they want to know that what they are teaching in the classroom will effectively help them cover the standards and achieve the results they know parents and administration are expecting. Next is the general public is interested because they need to be sure that their local schools are doing their best to provide solid and effective educational programs for the children in the area. Administrators are interested because they need feedback on the effectiveness of their curricular decisions. Last is curriculum publishers are interested because they can use the data and feedback from a curriculum evaluation to drive changes and upgrades in the materials they provide. Some of the models that have been developed for curriculum evaluation includes the following. First is the Bradley Effectiveness Model. Stephen Lawrence Hazeltine Bradley is a New Zealand-born artist who writes, paints, and makes music. In 1995, L.H. Bradley wrote a handbook on curriculum leadership and development. This book provides indicators that can help measure the effectiveness of a developed or written curriculum. For purposes of the classroom teachers, some of the statements were simplified. So first, you have to identify what curriculum you will evaluate. Then, find out if the curriculum you are evaluating answers yes or no. Answering yes to all questions means good curriculum as described by Bradley. So, here is the indicators of Bradley Effectiveness Model for curriculum development. First is the vertical curriculum continuity. Its descriptive question is, does the curriculum reflect the format, example K-12 and OBE, that enables teachers quickly assess what is being taught in the grade or year levels below or above the current level? Horizontal curriculum continuity. Does the curriculum provide content and objectives that are common to all classes of the same grade level? Third, instruction based on curriculum. Are lesson plans or syllabi or course design derived from the curriculum and strategies? Are the materials used correlated with the content, objectives, and activities? Next is broad involvement. Is there evidence of involvement of the different curriculum stakeholders in the planning, designing, and implementation and review of the curriculum? Next is the long-range planning. Is review cycle followed within the period of planning and implementation and review of the curriculum? Positive human relations. Did the initial thoughts about the curriculum came from teachers, principals, curriculum leaders, and other stakeholders? Next is the theory into practice. Is there clarity of vision, mission, graduation outcomes, program philosophy, learning outcomes in the curriculum? And the last is the planned change. Are there tangible evidence to show that the internal and external publics accept the developed program? So, if any of the indicators is answered with a no, actions should be made to make it yes. So the second model is the Tyler Objective-Centered Model. Ralph W. Tyler was an American educator who worked in the field of assessment and evaluation. He served on or advised a number of bodies that set guidelines for the expenditure of federal funds and influenced the underlying policy of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. Ralph Tyler in 1950 proposed a curriculum evaluation model which until now continues to influence many curriculum assessment process. His monograph was entitled Basic Principles of Curriculum and Instruction. It involves establishing goals or objectives, stating the objectives in behavioral terms, measuring aspects of student performance at the completion of teaching, comparing test results with behavioral objectives. It is a continuing process. So for this model, there are 6 curriculum elements. The first one is the objectives or the intended learning outcomes. Its evaluation process is to predetermine intended learning outcomes or objectives. Second is the situation or context. It identifies the situation or context that gives opportunity to develop behavior or achieved objectives. Third is the evaluation instruments or tools. It select, modify, and construct evaluation instruments or tools and check its objectivity, reliability, and validity. Fourth is the utilization of tool. It utilizes the tools to obtain results, compare the results obtained from several instruments before and after to determine the change. Fifth is the analysis of results. It analyzes the results obtained to determine strengths and weaknesses. Sixth is the last element, which is the utilization of results. It uses the results to make the necessary modification. This model will also answer yes or no. In this model, there are several steps that we need to follow in order to make this evaluation successful. So first is the step 1, which is determining the objectives of the school or class. In other words, what do the students need to do in order to be successful? So each subject has natural objectives that are indicators of mastery. All subjects need to be consistent with the philosophy of the school, and this is often neglected in curriculum development. For example, a school that is developing an English curriculum may create an objective that students will write essays. This would be one of many objectives within the curriculum. Step 2 is developing learning experiences that help the student to achieve step 1. For example, if students need to meet the objective of writing an essay, the learning experiences might be a demonstration by the teacher of writing an essay. The students then might practice writing essays. So the experience or the essay demonstration and writing is consistent with the objective, which is the student will write an essay. The step 3 is organizing the experiences. Should the teacher demonstrate first, or should the students learn by writing immediately? Either way could work, and preference is determined by the philosophy of teacher and the needs of the students. The point is that the teacher needs to determine a logical order of experiences for the students. Lastly, step 4 is evaluation of the objectives. Now, the teacher assesses the student's ability to write an essay. There are many ways to do this. For example, the teacher could have the students write an essay without assistance. If they can do this, it is evidence that the students have achieved the objective of the lesson. There are various in this model. However, the Tyler model is still considered by many to be the strongest model of curriculum. Tyler presented 4 fundamental questions which are used to formulate a basic structure for curriculum. These are: what educational purposes should be the school seek to attain? What educational experiences can be provided that are likely to attain these purposes? How can these educational experiences be effectively organized? How can we determine whether these purposes are being attained? These questions translate into a linear model that begins with objectives and then process to the selection of learning experiences based on these. The next step is to organize learning experiences for maximum effectiveness, and the last is to evaluate the curriculum. The third model is the Daniel-Staffelbeam's Context, Input, Process Product Model, or the CIPP. Daniel-Staffelbeam is one of the founding fathers of the field of evaluation. He distinguished Professor Emeritus at Western Michigan University. The CIPP model of curriculum evaluation was a product of the Phi Delta Kappa Committee chaired by Daniel Staffelbeam. The model made emphasis that the result of evaluation should provide data for decision making. So here is the CIPP evaluation model of Staffelbeam. First is the context evaluation, which is the goal. Second is the input evaluation or the plans, and process evaluation, which is the actions, and last is the product evaluation or the outcomes. Starting with context evaluation, evaluators examine the resources and background within the program, such as the scope of the evaluation and supports the program has in place, looking at overarching goals. Exploring background information and cultural context are all components included during this stage. Once the goals are assessed, evaluators can move into the input evaluation stage of the model. During the input evaluation stage, review focuses on identifying the key stakeholders and examining the program budget. This stage also collects information about planning and strategies for implementation, including human resources and timeline. During the third stage of process evaluation, the activities of the program are assessed with a focus on continuous improvement. What is being done? It is being done. Is it being done well, and what needs to be addressed for change? Finally, evaluators using CIPP measure the outcomes of the program and how effectively those outcomes are being addressed. They can ask, what is the impact and how sustainable is the program? The fourth model is the stake responsive model. Robert A. Stake is a professor emeritus of education at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Stake is a native of Adams, Nebraska. Stake responsive model is oriented more directly to program activities than program intents. Evaluation focuses more on the activities rather than intent or purposes. Step 1 is to meet with stakeholders to identify their perspectives and intentions regarding curriculum evaluation. Second is draws from Step 1 documents to determine the scope of evaluation. The third is to observe the curriculum closely to identify the unintended sense of implementation and any deviations from announced intents. Fourth is identifies the stated real purposes of the program and the various audiences. Fifth, identifies the problems of the curriculum evaluation at hand and identifies an evaluation design with needed data. Sixth is selects the means needed to collect data or information. 7. Implements the data collection procedure. 8. Organizes the information into themes. And last is decides with stakeholders the most appropriate formats for the report. Responsive evaluation is an approach to measure the effectiveness of educational programs developed by Robert E. Stake. This approach enables to evaluate the educational and other programs by comparing the program activity, the program uniqueness, and the social diversity of people. To conclude, responsive evaluation is derived from the naturalistic paradigm and concentrates on examining the educational process rather than predefined outcomes of the process. Responsive evaluation results are perceived as having more relevance to stakeholders' concerns and issues, and therefore more likely to be acted upon. Conducting an evaluation that is responsive to the needs of these groups will ensure that evaluate information is meaningful and more likely to be used for program enhancement and improvement. Stake's Countenance Model. Robert Stake's Countenance Model of 1967 was originally formulated for curriculum studies in the late 1960s. It examines the basis of education program such as the background philosophy and purpose for which is the program was developed. These intents refer to the goals and plans of practitioners such as the curricula and education program planners, teachers, and students. The countenance model aims to capture the complexity of an educational innovation or change by comparing intended and observed outcomes at varying levels of operation. This is the Stake's Countenance Model. Two basic acts of evaluation, which is the description and the judgment. To analyze information in the description matrix by looking at congruence or the identical between intents and observation. Dependencies are the contingencies of outcomes and transactions and antecedents. And last is the transaction on antecedents judgment made by applying standards to descriptive data. Antecedents are the conditions exist before implementation. Transactions are activities occurs during implementation, and outcomes are the results after implementation. It describes the program fully and judge the outcomes. So the sweeping federal requirements for evaluation that were imposed on American education in the 1960s stimulated the development of a number of new approaches to evaluation. One such approach was introduced by Robert Stake in 1967 in what was to become known as the countenance model for the educational evaluation. This approach built on Tyler's notion that evaluators should compare intended and observed outcomes, but it broadened the concept of evaluation by calling for examination of background, process, standards, and judgments as well as outcomes. Stake further developed his philosophy of evaluation during the late 1960s and early 1970s, and in 1975 presented his extended view under the label of responsive evaluation. This presentation retained the countenance approach's emphasis on examining the full countenance of a program, but it broke sharply from the Taylorian tradition of gathering data to discuss whether intentions had been realized. Instead, responsive evaluation assumed that intentions would change and called for continuing communication between evaluator and audience for the purposes of discovering, investigating, and addressing issues. In general, Stake is the leader of an emergent school of evaluation which calls for a pluralistic, flexible, interactive, holistic, subjective, and service-oriented approach. The sixth model is the Taba model or the grassroots rational model. Hilda Taba was an architect, a curriculum theorist, a curriculum reformer, and a teacher educator. Taba defines curriculum as a document containing a statement of the aims and of the specific objectives. It indicates some selection and organization of content. It either implies or manifests certain patterns of learning and teaching because the objective demand or the content organization requires it includes a program of evaluation of the outcomes. Hilda Taba created a multi-purpose teaching model that utilized the use of multiple processes: listing, grouping, labeling, regrouping, and synthesizing. So here is the Taba model. Taba model is inductive approach and teacher approach. Taba believed that teachers are aware of the students' needs, hence they should be the one to develop the curriculum. Taba is the grassroots approach. The main idea to this approach is that the needs of the students are at the forefront to the curriculum. Taba took what is known as the grassroots approach to curriculum development. She believed that the curriculum should be designed by the teachers rather than handed down by the higher authority. So here are the steps of Hilda Taba model of curriculum development. Hilda Taba is the developer of this model of learning. Taba believed that there is a definite logical and sequential order in creating curriculum. She promotes the down-top model or grassroots approach. Taba's grassroots model has 7 steps as listed below, advocating a major role for teachers. First is the diagnosis of learners' needs. The teacher, who is also the curriculum designer, starts the process by identifying the needs of the students for whom curriculum is to be planned. For example, majority of students are unable to think critically. The second is the formulation of objectives. After the teacher has identified the needs of learners that require attention, he or she specifies the objectives by which needs will be fulfilled. The third one is the selection of content. The objectives selected or created suggest the subject matter or content of the curriculum. Not only objectives and content should match, but also the validity and significance of the chosen content need to be determined. Example is the relevance and significance of the content. The fourth, the fourth step is the organization of the content. A teacher cannot just select content but must organize it in a particular sequence, taking into consideration the maturity of learners, their academic achievement, and their interest. The fifth step is the selection of learning experiences. Content must be presented to students and they must be engaged with the content. At this point, teachers should select appropriate instructional methodology that will involve the students with the content. The sixth step is the organization of learning activities. The learning activities be organized in a sequence depending both on content sequence and learners' characteristics. The teacher needs to keep in mind the students he or she will be teaching. The last step is the evaluation. The curriculum planner example is the teacher must determine what objectives have been accomplished. To assist the achievement of learning objectives, evaluation procedures need to be designed. The seventh model is the Kirkpatrick model. Donald Kirkpatrick was Professor Emeritus at the University of Wisconsin in the United States and a past president of the American Society for Training and Development. The Kirkpatrick model is a globally recognized method of evaluating the results of training and learning programs. It assesses both formal and informal training methods and rates them against four levels of criteria, which is the reaction, learning, behavior, and results. So here is the overview of Kirkpatrick's four-level training evaluation model. The level 1 is the reaction. The first level of criteria is reaction, which measures whether learners find the training engaging, favorable, and relevant to their jobs. The second level is the learning. Level 2 gauges the learning of each participant based on whether learners acquire the intended knowledge, skills, attitude, confidence, and commitment to the training. Learning can be evaluated through both formal and informal methods and should be evaluated through the pre-learning and post-learning assessments to identify accuracy and comprehension. Methods of assessment include exams or interview-style evaluations. A defined, clear scoring process must be determined in advance to reduce inconsistencies. Next is the level 3, which is the behavior. One of the most crucial steps in the Kirkpatrick model is the level 3. It measures whether participants were truly impacted by the learning and if they're applying what they learned. Assessing behavioral changes makes it possible to know not only whether the skills were understood, but if it's logically possible to use the skills in the workplace. The last level is the level 4, which is the results. The final level is dedicated to measuring direct results. Level 4 measures the learning against an organization's business outcomes. The key performance indicators that were established before learning was initiated. The next model is the Kaufman-Rogers model. Roger Kaufman is an American figure in the history of educational technology and performance improvement fields, as well as the strategic thinking and planning for public and private sector organizations. Regarded as one of the founding figures of the field, he is referred to as the father of needs assessment. Kaufman has developed a model for strategic thinking and planning he calls mega planning. Kaufman argues that many organizational planning models incorrectly begin and end with internal or organizational performance and therefore fail to provide organizations a chance to plan how they deliver value outside of their organization. Here are the Kaufman's 5 levels. Level 1 is the input and process. The first level of Kaufman's evaluation method is broken down into two parts. Level 1A is the enabling. Evaluation is designed to evaluate the quality and availability of the physical, financial, and human resources. This is an input level. Level 1B is the reaction. It evaluates the efficiency and acceptability of the means, method, and processes of the proposed training program. Test subjects are asked how they feel about the instruction. The level 2 and 3 are the micro levels. They are classified as micro levels designed to evaluate individuals and small groups. Level 2 is the acquisition. It evaluates the competency and mastery of the test group or individual in a classroom setting. Level 3 is the application. It evaluates the success of test group or individual's utilization of the training program. Test subjects are monitored to determine how much and how well they implement the knowledge they gain within the organization. The level 4 is the macro level or the organization output. Organization output is in Kaufman's method of evaluation is the level which designed to evaluate the results of the contribution and payoffs of the organization as a whole as a result of the proposed training program. Success is measured in terms of organization's overall performance and the return on investment. The last level is the level 5, which is the mega level or societal outcomes. In the final level of Kaufman method of evaluation, the societal outcomes is the contributions to and from the client and society as a whole are evaluated. Responsiveness, potential sequences, and payoffs are gauged to determine the success of implementing the proposed training program. The ninth model is the Saylor and Alexander model. Regarded as the father of the middle school, William Marvin Alexander is best remembered for his contributions to curriculum development, middle-level education. Alexander championed the rights of both adolescents and teachers. John Galen Saylor is an American educator, a Fulbright professorship for Finland of 1962, and an author. Galen Saylor and William Alexander of 1974 viewed curriculum development as consisting of 4 steps. According to them, curriculum is a plan for providing sets of learning opportunities to achieve broad educational goals and related specific objectives for an identifiable population served by a single school center. So here is the Saylor and Alexander model. First is the goals, objectives, and domains. The model indicates that curriculum planners begin by specifying the major educational goals and specific objectives they wish to accomplish. Each major goal represents a curriculum domain, and they advocate for major goals or domains: personal development, human relations, continued learning skills, and specialization. The goals, objectives, and domains are selected after careful consideration of several external variables such as findings from educational research, accreditation standards, views of community groups, and others. Next is the curriculum designing. Once the goals, objectives, and domains have been established, planners move into the process of designing the curriculum. Here, decision is made on the appropriate learning opportunities for each domain and how and when these opportunities will be provided. Will the curriculum be designed along the lines of academic disciplines or according to student needs and interests or along themes? These are some of the questions that need to be answered at this stage of development process. Next is the curriculum implementation. After the designs have been created, the next step is implementation of the designs by teacher. Based on the design of the curriculum plan, teachers would specify instructional objectives and then select relevant teaching methods and strategies to achieve the desired learning outcomes among students in the classroom. The last is the evaluation. Finally, curriculum planner and teachers engage in evaluation. The model proposed that evaluation should be comprehensive using a variety of evaluation techniques. Evaluation should involve the total educational program of the school and the curriculum plan, the effectiveness of instruction, and the achievement of students. Through the evaluation process, curriculum planner and developers can determine whether or not the goals of the school and the objectives of instruction have been met. So the last model is the Wheeler's model. J.K. Wheeler was an educator at the University of Western Australia in 1967. He is an author and a publisher. In Wheeler or cyclic model, curriculum is a continuous cycle responding to the changes within education, where any new information or practice will bring changes. It undertakes situational analysis, whereby the context or situation in which curriculum decisions are to be taken is thoroughly studied. Wheeler model of curriculum development is a type of model that indicates curriculum development is a continuous cycle. According to this model, curriculum development should be responsive to changes in the educational sector and make appropriate modifications to account for these changes. Moreover, this model targets situational evaluation. This is because the context within which the curriculum decisions are taken is considered important. This practice can help make the most effective decisions. There are 5 interconnected phases in this model. It includes aims, goals, and objectives, learning experiences, selection of content, organization and integration of learning experiences and content. Fifth is the evaluation. Aims, goals, and objectives. Aims covers all the experiences provided in the curriculum. Goals are tied to specific subjects or group of content within the curriculum. Objectives describe more specific outcomes as a result of lessons or instructions delivered at a classroom. Next is the learning experiences. Learning experiences is an activity which the learners engages in which the results is in behavior. One is the content. Content is what we teach. It must be related to validity, significance, utility, interest, and learnability. Last is the evaluation. The former have clear objectives and aligned assessment strategies designed to test how well students have achieved the learning outcomes. Wheeler model sets the school objectives as final steps in as well as the first. So once this cycle is complete, it starts again from the first step and goes onward, continually improving the curriculum. Wheeler model takes new information into account, has a feedback mechanism, view elements of curriculum as interconnected phases, and emphasis on situational analysis. These are the main advantages of Wheeler model. So, that would be all my report for today, and thank you.